In this video of the start of the rat race task, final task day, I use my chase cam, and I pull it up off of attachment point on my pod and then let it swing freely after attaching it to a previously installed line that mirrors the C inner cascade riser. Usually with the chase cam, the pictures are pretty sharp. You can see with this one without much turbulence, everything's nice and smooth, an interesting angle. Return back at this point to join in the gaggle and get up to the top, hopefully be in good position for the start of the race. You'll also notice during this video that some of the thermic shots, there is a bit of turbulence in and out of thermals, and the wing gets knocked around, and when the wing gets knocked around, so does the camera. So there's a bit of jostling, but I hope you enjoy the video, and we'll see how it goes. Oh, the other thing I like to do is at least at the beginning of the race or sometime when not much is going on, is deploy my Tibetan prayer flags. These flags I got when I was in Nepal, and they seem to be just generally a positive effect for me anyway, to give homage to all the pilots and places that I've been over the years. It's kind of fun, but when game gets on, I'll pull it back in. I usually know the game's on when Josh Cohn ends up where I'm at, and that means we're playing for keeps. We'll see. Speaking of Josh, there he is in his really beautiful blue Boom 9. Did very well in the races and easy to spot. At this point during the pre-race gaggle, we're up over the primary lift at Woodrat. Probably a gaggle of about 15 to 20 of us are up there. Josh and Nick and a few others. Most of the better pilots that have launched early have gotten up to join us. We're going around just really topped out at the top of the thermal. I think somewhere right around 65 to 7,000, depending on what cycle we're in. What's going to happen is we just keep working to see who can get as high as they can get, and nobody really makes much move. But at some point down the road, there's a notice that there's a gaggle forming down below or near launch, and it's growing and growing in number and also growing in strength. And so in a few minutes here, really the game's going to get pretty serious, and we'll be done with this sort of waiting around float fest and move over to the big gaggle, and you'll see us roll out and head that direction here in about a minute or so. As I mentioned before, once Josh Cohn pulls up alongside of you and you're racing and you're getting closer to the start, it's time to get serious. And so there he is on the left, and he's going on a little bit of a glide, head over towards a couple of other gliders that are looking like they're making progress. So it's going to be time for me to pull my stringer in and get ready to race. So that's what I do, and it does take a little distraction. I want to make sure that there's nobody around me when I do that. And I'll get back in the race in about 30 seconds or so. And of course, in that time, Josh will be well on his way, but it all works out. back on target. Caught back up with Josh and pretty much at the top of the gaggle. It was a pretty good beginning to the start process. And we'll circle here for maybe another, maybe 2 minutes or so, and then head out for that developing gaggle that I talked about earlier. In fact, this might be the rollout here. I'm not really sure. You know, when I got to that gaggle that was building, and watch Josh on the right-hand side as he centers up on it, I went into it and decided that there was just too many gliders coming up from below. We had about 20 minutes to the start, and it just didn't seem like it was worth it to me to risk the extended time in a very, very large gaggle in fairly active air. I'm sure it would have been just fine to work it and work it and work it, but the benefits and the risks just didn't make sense for me. I'm sitting somewhere in the 20s to 30 position in the race, and so for me to be a little bit off on the start is just okay for me. I'd rather be safe. And so, well, you'll see that I'll come into the gaggle and it's pretty impressive pile of gliders, and rather than begin centering up on the gaggle itself, I just basically touch the side of it, fly on by, and head over towards Burnt. And it's a decision that I made for safety. It's not the greatest race decision, and in fact the race group was able to beat us over to the start. However, on my glider at my speed, if I had done the original, stayed with this original group here and stayed high with the new gaggle that developed, I probably would have been quite far behind, probably about at the same place I was when I crossed over to Rabies from Burnt. So it all in all wasn't a bad move for me, and it kept me safe, and I was happy, and I was able to fly around with a lot less stress over at Burnt than the guys who were gaggling up over Woodrat for about 20 minutes or so just prior to the race. In the next sequence coming up just after this, watch the white glider down and to my right. Yeah, there was some turbulence. Wacko. He recovered just fine. This is the initiation of the glide to the large gaggle. You see Josh Cohn there up to the left, and Nick Reese is right with us. We're basically heading over to a spot immediately above launch. The thermal's coming up out of the primary launch collector, and it drops up over the back, and actually we're going to end up about 800 yards towards Burnt as we hit this gaggle. And the gaggle's quite large. You can't really see it as much from this altitude. We're coming in at pretty close to the top of it. What bothered me about it was that it had lots and lots of gliders down below, and I knew that those gliders would be joining up into the top ranks of the pack, and it had been so disorganized at the top of the thermals that I wasn't very comfortable with the idea. You can see it now forming here, how many gliders we had in the air and how many were down below us as well. And as we form up on this gaggle, it's not this disorganized because the pilots aren't good, but it was a little disorganized just because there wasn't a real core to the lift. It's a good lifty area, and it was just going to be a lot of work to stay with all these gliders. And so I made the decision at this point that I wasn't going to join in this gaggle, but rather head directly over to Burnt and fly with 3 or 4 other gliders. We are at 6,500 feet. We had plenty of altitude to make the climb at Burnt, and so I just headed out for safety's sake. Here over Burnt, rather similar conditions. The thermals were not terribly organized. There weren't any real booming cores, nothing really strong. There's probably between 6 and 10 gliders over in the area, but we never really gaggled seriously up. Every once in a while we turn with each other. Every once in a while we break apart. At this point I'm a little bit further to the west than anybody else, and they're off kind of over to the north, and we're getting close to start time. I'm starting to watch my instruments pretty closely, and I think we have about a minute and a half to go to start, and we're going to be heading off towards Raby's Peak, and that's the beginning of the race. And I take a little bit of a turn here to the right, thinking I needed a few more seconds before the launch starts, but now this is my final decision point. I'm going to turn to the left, initiate glide to the start, and the race begins. Hope you guys appreciated the perspective of the chase cam. I wish I had more of the race. I was able to make goal on this race. It was the last race of the 2013 rat race, and had a great time. Flew about 62K, and I came in, I think, I don't know, 27th or something like that, which for me was really good. And we really had some fabulous winds, fabulous lift conditions. Probably the best was we got up to over almost 9,000 feet prior leaving the valley out to Johns, with a tailwind on the way out and a tailwind on the way back, and ended up well over launch. Hardly had to turn at all on the last two legs of the race. Well, till the next rat race, see you later. This is Preacher signing out. Have a good one.